find any inspiration in this, we have done, and you have done your noble part.
El Maestro Speaks podcast.
Wherever you are in this part of our planet, here I am again, El Maestro Speaks podcast for another episode. So in the previous episode, we had a conversation with the first Igorot MMA champion in an international stage in the person of Honorio. I should have placed some effects on that one. Honorio the Rock Banario. Alright, so if you want to listen to the conversation we had, unfortunately it is in our native language, because my objective there is to let our fellow Kankanay be inspired of the story that he had. I was planning of putting a subtitle, but with the job that I have now, it's a little bit taxing. Well, anyway, if someone out there wants to put the subtitle, just contact me and we'll talk. So, in this episode, we'll be talking about something else. But before that, for those who are trying to view our video format for the podcast, I have it in YouTube, of course. And just search El Maestro Speaks and it will pop out there. Of course, there's not a lot of subscribers. That's why it takes time for you to search it. And of course, we have here in Spotify and all of the other podcasting apps, Apple Podcast, Google Podcast, all of those. They're scattered there. And just this week, I decided to place all of the full video format of the podcast on El Maestro Speaks podcast Facebook page, since in here in the locality of Benguet, people commonly use Facebook as their search engine for website and all of it, to online sales, online marketing and everything. So I'm hoping that people will come across it and listen to the conversations and sharings that we had. So what we will be talking about today, we'll be sharing it to all of us, is this method of learning new skill, and the method of learning new skills, which was called the DiSSS method, or DiSSS method, and the CaFE method. This was created by another podcaster that I admire so much, Mr. Tim Ferriss. Sometimes he calls himself the human guinea pig. What he does is, of course, aside from having a podcast, is that he experiments on himself on the different methods, on the different hacks for a human to be able to be successful in any field that he wants to try in. So that's a little bit interesting in my view, and a little bit dangerous for him. But he does it for us, so we have to take this newfound knowledge that was discovered by him, I mean organized by him or discovered by him, and then of course share it to the world, right? So you can always check his podcast, Tim Ferriss Show, I guess that's the title. And he had some speaking engagement in TEDx, and the likes. So to start with, as you have noticed, every time that I have a solo podcast, I'd be discussing about sometimes Igorot history or some theories on Igorot histories. At the same time, I also talk about learning developments. I mean, ways on how to learn things. So I had been talking before. I think I've been talking about it like for 3 or 4 times about the 21 Hours of Learning by Josh Kaufman. It's a book, and then it was summarized. I discovered that one from a TEDx engagement or speech, and then I wanted to share it to all of us. Right? So until now, I'm still interested in finding out ways to learn things as fast as we can. Though it's not a shortcut per se, because in my observation, it's not a shortcut. It's a hack in a sense. But if you're looking for something that will make you learn the content of a book in one night, this is not for you, because still learning takes time and dedication and this consistency in trying to acquire the knowledge. So we've been talking to a lot of people who are successful, and that's what they are going to tell us: the focus and the consistency in doing things, right? So this method here will in a way help us learn things. And why learning, right? We can say that we are already old, and who needs to learn the things? Well, there's this popular saying that if you stop learning, you'll start living. And as we are living, we keep on learning new things. Just imagine 10 years ago, our phones are what we are calling the dumb phones, wherein the function is only just to text or call. And when we got those, we have to learn how to use them. And here comes the phone with a camera. And when we got those again, we have to learn the new ways of using those phones. And here comes smartphones, wherein we have to learn how to use it, how to download apps, how to manipulate it so that we can use it. We can use it for our work. How to, go around it so that we can use it also as our tools, not just for calling. So every day we are learning new things. And for career development, for professionals, of course, learning will help you upgrade the knowledge that you have to be able to be successful in your chosen careers, right? And bottom line, for old people like me, learning makes us young accordingly. Right, so that's why I'm also interested with this thing here. And there was one podcast I heard before that one of the special skills of the Navy SEALs are like the special, the elite of the elites of the U.S. military. And one of a former Navy SEAL, a veteran, his name is a fellow podcaster also, forget the name. I cannot remember the name. He is a paraglider. he has this podcast called Danger Close. I really forgot the name. But then he said that one of the special skill that is useful of the Navy SEALs is that their ability to learn things as fast as they can. If the mission requires one SEAL to be a mechanic the next day, then that SEAL can learn the ins and outs. Let's just say the basics of being a mechanic overnight and can use it the following day to achieve the goal of the mission. So then the SEALs, all the Navy SEALs, have gotten good in learning and acquiring new knowledge and skills. That's one of the special weapon they have in their repertoire, and that will be a very good weapon for us civilians also, as we observe that our what do you call this one, our the time right now, or this generation or this era is so fast paced. It's like everybody is catching up with something, that even knowledge development are developing, are growing exponentially in a fast pace that sometimes we cannot catch up. I can feel this in my field as a teacher, and it's very difficult if you are stuck with what you know when you graduated in college. Just look at this, the time when computer or laptop was not a requirement when you were teaching, but now it is like your main weapon when you go, your main equipment when you go teach. You have to know how to use Microsoft Office or all the Microsoft applications. Long time ago, it's a plus for you. It's a plus for you as a teacher if you know how to use those. And right now, if you're a teacher, it is expected that you already know how to use those applications. Word, Excel, those are just like basic now. I was in the time wherein just a little knowledge of that one is like a plus factor for you. It's not needed. There was that time that it's not needed, but it's a plus factor for you if you know how to use them. Now, this time here, it is necessary, it is expected that when you go to the field of teaching, you already know how to use them. Right? And then here comes another thing. Like, it's a plus factor for you if you know how to create animations for educational materials. If you know how to edit videos, it's a plus factor for you. Like a year ago, but now it is like required for all the teachers. It's like it's not direct. They're not directly saying that, but it's a plus factor for you again. It's good for you if you know how to create or do those things. So you see the fast change in the field of teaching, and I am looking at it, and I will not be surprised if there will come a time that a teacher should know how to code. Code means write a program for a computer. So I would not be surprised if the time will come that a teacher should have that kind of knowledge. Now, of course, teachers who didn't have that background on those kind of things must try to learn, right? And learn new things. The problem is we do not have that time. Just divide your time. You have your 24-hour time, 8 hours, 6 hours of teaching. And of course, you have your family to attend to. And where will you fit in a schedule for you to learn new things, right? Of course, you have to relax also. Now, this method here will help us try to develop skills in us, and I hope that by sharing it, that we can help other people who are interested in learning new things. And of course, I'm encouraging everyone, let's try to learn new things. Challenging our brain of learning new things is like it reduces the stress, and it helps us train our analytical thinking, and it helps in our problem solving skills. So it's really good learning new things, right? So let's start with this method of learning. So I want to read this one first from Tom Bellew. Bellew, is that the way to pronounce this last name? I don't know. So this is a quote from him, and it says there, tie your self-esteem to being a learner. Yeah, that's correct, right? There are some of us who tie our self-esteem, and most of us tie our self-esteem to garnering titles, MD, MAED, PhD, EdDD, and if people won't acknowledge that one, some people will be very furious, and that means that they have tied their self-esteem to their titles. But there's a better way of doing it. Instead of tying your self-esteem to your titles, why not tie your self-esteem to being a learner? You are always there to learn. Don't tie your self-esteem to being good. That's a losing formula. The very thing that makes you proud of yourself should be your willingness and ability to stare nakedly at your inadequacies. Right, that's right. There are times that to hide our inadequacies, we try to gather or collect a lot of titles and positions as much as we can. Because like I said a while ago, our self-esteem is tied to the titles. But if we have the courage to stare nakedly at our inadequacies, that's the start of becoming a learner. So we should always have to tie our self-esteem to being a learner. We are human after all. We don't know a lot of things. We don't know all things. And things that we don't know, we can always learn them, right? So, in order to be a learner, this is what we're going to do. We have to, create a system. So these things that I'll be discussing today is just a system of trying to gather information or trying to learn new skill. And it might not be applicable to you, but you can always find your own system of learning. But I think this is in general helpful to all of us. So let's start with the DiSSS method. So the DiSSS method is a framework created by Tim Ferriss, a device to help people master new information-based topics. So let's start. So the DiSSS is like an acronym. So this is D stands for deconstruction. S stands for selection, and S for sequencing, and S for stakes. So let's take a look at those. What do those letters mean? Okay, so let's start with letter D. So when you say D, it means deconstruct. So deconstruct means you find the skill at the smallest units of the knowledge. So in teaching, that's what we call the chunking, right? So the construction of the knowledge, so that you can learn the smallest unit of that skill, and then go on from that. After learning the smallest set of the skill, you go to another small set of the skill, you add them together, it will become big, and then you go to another small set of skill until you can gather it and you can have the whole. So that is the construction. You have to deconstruct the skill. You can divide the skill you want to learn into sub-skills. If you want to become a good public speaker, the sub-skills you want to learn could be confident body language, voice control, effective communication, rhetoric, and delivery. So what it's saying here, what was used here as an example is that becoming a good public speaker, right? So in becoming a good public speaker, there are a lot of things behind it. I mean, first you have to have your voice control. So how can you do that one? So you focus on that one first. Good voice control, good voice modulation, and of course a confident body language. You start with those. After mastering the voice control, you go with the mastering a good posture or good body language and effective communication. You can still subtask that one. Okay, rhetorics and delivery. So you start by taking this skill, dividing it, and then attacking it one by one. So that is deconstruction. So in terms of, say for example, in boxing, right? So to become a good boxing, so if you want to learn how to box, let's start first with there are things there: throwing the basic punches, right? And then good footwork and good head movement, and good posture. So first, of course, you are not going to learn all of those things at once. You start first with, let's say, good footwork. So you focus on footwork, not focusing on punching first. So you focus on the footwork, okay? Because you subdivided the skills that you are focusing on the smallest part first. Okay? So we are focusing on footwork, and after that, if you are confident that you have taken the basics of it, or you got it, then you can move to another small unit of this skill. Let's say punching. Now punching again, you can divide that one into smaller part, wherein you have your punch for the left and right, things like that, right? And then head movement thing, you can add that one after you master the other skills. So that is the construction. That's letter D in the DiSSS method. Moving on, we have the next step, which is selection. Selection means that you need to determine the 20% of those minimum units that will produce the 20% of outcome. So looking at that, this is like the Pareto principle, wherein it says that there is, in a certain skill or in certain things, there is the 20% part of it that is producing 80% of the outcome, something like that. So it's very difficult to find that one. You need a guidance for that one. Now I'll go with the boxing again. So let's just say 20% of it that will produce an 80% outcome will be the basics of punches, like jab, straight, cross, and uppercut, hooks and uppercut, those things. Those are like the 20% that will produce an 80% of your outcome. The most basic part of the skill, that's what you need to focus on. Okay, wait for what? I'm having this. Okay, I am having a little bit of feedback here. Right, I think we're good. So, According to Tim Ferriss, in the Japanese language, he made a huge progress with Japanese when he stumbled upon a poster that contains 1,945 of Joyo kanji characters and their readings, designated for basic literacy in the Japanese ministry. So that's like the 20% of it, right? Of the Japanese language or kanji. If you're learning how to play guitar, there are few chord progression that are used for 100 of songs. They are your 20%. Like, if you have this if you can search in YouTube, for those who are trying to, let's just use it as an example for this selection of the 20% that can produce 80%. The chord progression of C, A minor, F, and G, I think. Okay, so that chord progression is being used, and no, it's not intentional, but unknowingly maybe it's being used by all the rock stars when they're composing songs, right? So you can see a video of it, and that's like your 20%, right? So 20%, let's just say in the simplest explanation, is looking at the very basics of it, looking at the very basics of the skill that you need to learn, and then that's what you should focus on. So that's selection of 20% that can produce an 80% outcome. After that one, we have sequencing. So in sequencing, a lot of people give up because they start with something too advanced for a beginner and then they get discouraged. You have to find out the effective order of learning skills units. Since it highly depends on the skill you're trying to develop, it's best to ask someone who has already mastered that skill. So sequencing, it means that what part of the skill must you have first. Okay. Okay, again, let's fix again on the mic. Alright. Yeah. So sequencing is like arranging those subunits or sub-skills in a way that you will not get discouraged in learning them. So say for example, if you are learning guitars and learning guitar is very difficult, and I ask you to like start doing the chord F, a bar chord for F, you will give up very soon, right? You will give up immediately because it's very hard to do it. But when you will start with broken chords, like say for example the D, broken chord of D, and A and G and C, you'll start with that one. Then of course at least you can get your fingers rhythm, and then after that one you will slowly develop your strumming and the rhythm, the rhythm of the left and the right hand when strumming and doing the chord. And slowly but slowly you are gaining your confidence and the strength of your left hand in doing the chords, and that's the time that you can do the bar chords. That is sequencing. Now to master it, I have note there that if you have mastered it, do it in a reverse way, something like that. I heard that from Tim Ferriss saying that you reverse the order that was how they taught you, you reverse it, the order of how they taught you, the arrangement of how they taught you or how they taught the skills to you, you have to reverse it just to master it, So that is sequencing. So let's go back. So for now we just finished deconstructing the skill, selection of the skill, and sequencing. And the last one is to stay motivated and disciplined. Is that the third one? Before we go to the third one, for the sequencing, it's very important that when you're practicing this skill is you practice with stakes free. Stakes free means there should be no consequences if you made or you've done something wrong while practicing the skill. That is under the sequencing. Because what makes you stop learning is that when there's a stake, where there's something at stake while you are just trying to learn, that will disappoint you because you're putting a lot of pressure for yourself. So in this part here, while you're practicing on the part of sequencing, while you're practicing the skill, it's very important that there should be no stakes involved in that part. Okay. Now to make it higher, once you mastered that, you passed that stage, now we can go to the third one, or the third S, which is the fourth, and the last, which is the stakes. Or the stakes is for a psychological, the psychological component of it. So to keep yourself motivated and even more importantly disciplined, here are some things that you can do to set up some stakes. So the first one is stakes means that if you cannot master that skill, there will be a consequence for you, right? So let's say, for example, you said you told your friend that I wanna learn how to box in 6 months, and if I'm not able to learn how to box in 6 months, I'm gonna give you 1,500 pesos, something like that. It's a stake, right? And since you don't like to give money to your friend, and I don't understand why he's your friend in the first place, and you don't like to give money to him, and then of course you are going to be motivated to learn how to box. Just an example. So these are some example of temperatures on the part of stakes. So tell your friends, just like what I said a while ago. So tell your friends what you're doing so they can keep you accountable. Say, for example, I'm gonna lose my weight, things like that. I'm gonna learn how to play guitar for like this, and then you tell your friend. After maybe after sequencing. After sequencing, that's the time that you tell your friend, right? After sequencing that you have already learned the basics. Now, you can tell your friend that I'm gonna learn how to play guitar, and that keeps you motivated. That keeps you motivated and focused to do more, to be able to get better on that skill, new skill that you're practicing. So tell your friends. If there's a deadline, announce the deadline too. Right? Like I said, if you said that you're going to be or get good in boxing for within 6 months, you tell that to your friends too. You won't give up easily when you tell everyone about your goal. Think of it as a positive peer pressure. So, moreover, friends will be understanding if you skip a gathering to work on your goal. So, the reason why Time First is said that you tell your friends is that, of course, when there are some events that, friends gathering and you're not there, they are more accepting, right? Of it's okay, he is working on these things here, he's trying to be a boxer, and he wants to be better in boxing within 6 months, so it's okay, he's training, something like that, and they have that understanding, right? Because they're your friend. At the same time, if you fail, they can always, friends are encouraging, they can always encourage you to don't give up, like do it again, try it again. So that's why it's the tip there is tell a friend, right? Stay motivated. Another one is set weekly goals, right? So when you it's very important here, setting goals is you set or you have to determine a goal that you really can finish on that amount or set amount of time. Okay? So set a weekly goal. A week is long enough for some progress to happen and short enough not to lose motivation. Break a big goal into smaller ones and make it less scary and gives you a sense of accomplishment along the way. So setting a weekly goal will make you help you feel that you're accomplishing something. Say for example, you say, we will use again boxing here as an example. You say, for example, I'm going to learn how to throw um, jab, straight, combination, and then slide in 1 week. So you will focus on that one. Jab, straight, and then slide. Jab, straight, slide. Okay, slide to the right, slide to the left, something like that. So you will do that one. You practice that one, and then you check it. You try to evaluate yourself if you had it. You have the confidence of throwing it at the end of the week. And that will give you a sense of accomplishment that you have accomplished something in that week. And then you will go to next week and you will do it again. Okay. So it's like what I'm doing here in the podcast is that I'm applying this also. And I would say at the end of the week, I should have at least one episode wherein if I didn't have a conversation with someone, I have talked about something. I have shared about something that I have read. And if that is giving me a pressure also, that is, I should read something. So it is all connected, right? So if you did it after the week, you have this sense of accomplishment that you're doing something. Because my goal here is to reach 100 episode, right? So recording this one, I already made one step towards my biggest goal, which is to reach 100th episode. That's it. Another one under the stakes is set a reminder. According to a study published in European Journal of Social Psychology, it takes around 66 days to form a habit. So 66 days of doing things straight. And then it will become your habit. So until then, there's no shame in setting a reminder to make sure you don't forget to work on your skill, right? So that's it. You set a reminder. That's 66 days straight. So that you will not forget it, then you set a reminder. Next is make a habit tracker. We have a lot of apps doing that for us now, right? So beauty of technology. So or make a habit tracker. You can make a habit tracker yourself. Get a template or simply use any calendar you have around. Crops off days that you work towards your goal. The longer the streak is, the worse it feels to skip a day and break it. This technique is called don't break the chain or the Seinfeld method. So, say for example, to make it more visual, you're going to mark X. Say for example, you did practice the skill today, you mark an X. Tomorrow you did, mark it X again. So the longer you do that one, and then it will be, you will feel worse if you will try or if you will decide not to practice the next day, because you're looking at this trick that you made, the checks that you have done. You will feel bad if you will stop that streak, right? So that is the benefit of having a habit tracker. It's very different. It's very, very, very important, right? And then we have this one here. Set a reward system. The reward system. As Jack Torrance from The Shining feverishly typed over and over, all work and no play makes Jack a dull boy. So of course you have to reward yourself. After achieving the skill, you have to reward yourself. And after achieving small goals, the smaller goals that you have set for each week, you can also give yourself a reward for each of those, right? So a reward will fuel your focus, your will to continue doing what you have set to do. So that's it. Okay, set a reward system. So that is the DiSSS method. So let's go over it again. So the first one is deconstruct the skill. And we have selection, selecting the very basic or the 20% of that entire skill that will produce 80% of outcome. Now we also have the sequencing or going over the sub skills and choosing what to attack first and then what to attack next, so that you will not be intimidated when you are trying to practice them. Next is the stakes, wherein you have to set the stakes so that you will get motivated in finishing what you have started. So that's the DISSS method, DISSS. Now next is we have the CaFE method. So CaFE method is the secondary framework for learning a skill that goes hand in hand with the DISSS method. And then of course this is also created by none other than Tim Ferriss. So CaFE stands for compression, frequency, and encoding. So let's start with compression. Compression is the most important 20% chosen into a cheat sheet, right? Not only will you have the most important information easily accessible, but the process of making a cheat sheet will help you with learning. I always made a cheat sheet when I am studying in my university exam. By the time I'd create the perfect one, I wouldn't need it anymore because I would memorize everything while making it. So this is like you're creating a cheat sheet means, you're really writing it literally writing it. So this is like having the information, right? So you write it, try to put it in a something like a cheat sheet. It's a cheat sheet, right? You write it down there. While you're reviewing it, you write it down there, okay? And read it, okay? By the time that you will need that one, you don't need it anymore because it's already there. So choose the 20%, okay? 20% of, let's say, in the question, the question or the knowledge that will be going at 20% of that knowledge that will be turned into a question in an exam. Okay, put it in a cheat sheet and try to memorize it. I mean, write it down until it will be ingrained in your memory. I think I have done that when I was young. So while I'm studying, I'm writing it in my hand, and by the time I'm going to need it, I don't need to see it anymore. I can even erase it in my hand because I already have it in my head. Okay. Frequency means how often or how long should you study. Keep in mind your limits and deadlines. For example, I know I can engage in deep work for a maximum of 3 to 4 hours a day, including breaks, unless I am under pressure of a rapidly approaching deadline. Because of this, it would make sense for me to set a goal of learning 8 hours a day. So, frequency, how long should you study? So choose the time that you feel you are up at your peak of focus, and at the same time you have to schedule it so that you have the frequency. I mean, you have to set the goal, right? That you will study in this hour, and then tomorrow it's just the same. That's frequency. Encoding means create mental anchors and tricks that will help you remember easier. Try to connect things you want to memorize with something you already know for rapid recall. So this is on the process of memorizing also. There's creating acronyms like the DISSS, creating mnemonics, that's very common for students, creating songs. At times when we are studying and we are playing songs, that song will help us remember the things that we are studying, right? So you can do that also. Associations. Say for example, what do you remember about Albert Einstein? And then you can always remember his formula of EMC squared, things like that, right? Association. So that is encoding. So to encode or to help you remember those informations is you try to connect the things you want to memorize to things that you already know. Okay, acronyms, try to write mnemonics, okay, incorporate it in a song, or try to use songs to be able to remember this no information, making up sentence in order to make the spellings or to embed the words that you need to remember there. Okay, association, associated, or creating what we are calling the memory palace. Now, what is memory palace? That's another episode of a podcast. Okay, so memory palace is like you have this palace in your head, and then you imagine yourself placing those informations there. So as you walk to the kitchen, you saw this information. As you walk to your room, things like that. So you have to really have this very vivid imagination to be able to use that one. But it's easy. It takes practice, but it's easy. So creating that one. That is the CaFE method. So CaFE method again is compression and frequency and encoding. So those are some of the methods that we can use to be able to learn things faster than the normal rate or the normal speed. So I hope this episode was able to help you. If you're a student trying to learn things, or if you're a professional trying to learn or upgrade, then I hope that this method and CaFE method by Tim Ferriss can help us. Once again, this is Maestro Speaks podcast, and I'll be seeing you in the next episode. God bless everyone. Have a good one. Sponsor time. So this podcast is brought to you by DiSSS Auto Performance. DiSSS Auto Performance Shop offers automotive servicing. Nag-verify sila ng kahit anong klase ng sasakyan. Huwag lang eroplano. Located at Alapang, Trinidad, Benguet. Of course, they also offer off-road service. This podcast is brought to you by Millennial Tech. Millennial Tech could ma-repair the printer, ma-install the CCTV, repair the cellular phone, computer, and other electrical appliances. For more information, mabali na ibisita nyo da Kubo Building, Proper Abatan, Bugyas, Benguet, or you can contact them through their cell phone number 0910-255-0382, or you can visit their Facebook page, Millennial Tech.
Podcast is repairs, CarTech repair, kat ma-repair si cellphone, tablet, kan laptop. Mapa software man ti problema na data or hardware, kayang-kayan ti CarTech repairs. CarTech repair, kat masarakan ni stall number 113, second floor of Old Public Market, KM5 Trinidad, Benguet, or you can contact them at 0910-702-1930 or in their telephone number 074-424-0701. That is CarTech Repairs.
Alright, so sponsor time. This podcast is sponsored by Space Tech. Space Tech apo ko tag-offer ti services like formatting, software installation, file recovery, printer resetting, kanda dumapay related to computer of course. And ag home service da po ti computer. So kung kayong makarwar, you can contact Space Tech, CY Space Tech. This podcast is sponsored by Monoflore's Egg Poultry. So Monoflore's Egg Poultry sells fresh eggs, and they are available in the locality of Mankayan. Of course, you can check them out by checking their Facebook page, Monoflore's Egg Poultry. Check them out right now.